Okay, let's get started. I'm Jan Ozer, I'm the moderator. I'm going to talk as little as possible. The name of the session is Delivering Your Video Where Your Audience Wants It. I think the thing we all want as video producers, and the thing none of us have, is the ability to deliver our video to every platform our viewers want to watch it on. And it's an area that's in great flux, and we have three gentlemen to my right who do this every day for their customers. And I'm anxious to hear their thoughts on some questions that I have for them and some questions that you all have. With me are Steve Plunkett, who's Director of Technology and Innovation from Red Bee Media, Eddie Robbins, Technical Director from Groovy Gecko, and James Wilkinson, Director from Streaming Tank UK. All companies are from the UK. I'm going to ask them to spend about a minute describing what their companies do, just so you know where they're coming from, and then I have a list of questions, and then once those are done, we're going to open it up to y'all's questions. So why don't we get started? We'll take it from the extreme right. Steve, why don't you get started?
Thanks, Jan. So hi, everybody. My name is Steve Plunkett, as Jan said. I work for Red Bee Media. I'd give you a little bit of history for a company. We used to be a division of the BBC. In 2004, we were separated into an independent business called Red Bee Media. We put all of the BBC television channels on air, do the same for Channel 4, all 10 UK TV channels. And from an online perspective, we manage all of the content for BBC's iPlayer, ITV Player, 4D, and a range of other major broadcasters and studios. So we manage about 90% of the UK's broadcast on-demand content, increasingly to a range of devices beyond the PC.
Hi, my name's Eddie Robbins. I'm Technical Director at Groovy Gecko. We're a streaming media services company, been going about 11 years, based in Gray's Inn Road. Corporate base is FTSE 250 size companies, major not-for-profits, some local government and central government. Clients such as BP, AKQA, Nike, Microsoft, Xbox, BT and TED. Almost all of our work is to web and mobile devices. We don't really go into set-top box and OTT. There's some examples of stuff we've done recently in the last 6 months. We've done a couple of major webcasts for McLaren to 100,000, 200,000 audience with web and iDevice and Android and smaller devices. We run a live streaming channel for a racing company in Sweden, which is streaming out 24/7 to iDevices as well as the web. And we've recently partnered with Kaltura, who are an online video platform which automatically purposes on demand for all devices. And we've just gone live with GHD Hair this week, and we go live with Arup, which is a big engineering company, next week for sites that do just that.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is James Wilkinson. I'm the director and co-founder at Streaming Tank. We specialise in live video streaming, and especially from the sort of fashion and event and exclusive events, so I know fashion weeks, film premieres, rock concerts, festivals, that kind of thing. And we do a lot of stuff to mobile as well. And so this is where we've just been building up our network of having to so we do a lot of corporate stuff as well. And so it's just quite interesting to be here today to talk about how the different technologies work and how that streaming tech really.
Okay, let me start off with a question. What are the relevant, I guess, buckets? You know, everybody's going to do either flash or Silverlight, and then they're going to do mobile. And are there any really useful buckets like iDevices, Android devices, or do you have one stream that supports them all? I mean, how do you do that?
I can start. Well, it varies. So iDevices probably are the most popular non-PC platform that we stream to in a major way, actually. So iPhones, iPod Touch, iPad, increasingly, a lot of our content, clients' content is streamed to those platforms. Traditionally, or more often, to a native application rather than to a web page. HTML5 and general web apps are changing that to some extent, but a lot of our content, we create a native app that will save the video and have a surrounding experience, and we stream a lot of other content to PC. So PC would still be the dominant platform today. In terms of PC, almost entirely Flash delivered. There is some Silverlight content that we offer. Most of our clients go for a Flash-based player, and HTML5 again appearing as a viable option on the PC and cross-platform.
Eddie, how are you handling Android devices? You mentioned that was a platform that you target.
Android we handle pretty well just as a flash delivery.
Say it again?
As a flash delivery.
Okay, so you just still...
So Android kind of bundles in with an adaptive streaming approach on flash, and iDevice goes down because it's delivered using download server or HLS if you're live, then that's a separate package of something you have to approach. But otherwise, we pretty well deliver everything using flash and some 3GP for when people actually want really old devices, but nobody does anymore.
Okay.
I'm quite surprised about how often you go to, you see a corporate or a website actually think, we've got to do some video, we've got to put it on our website, and if they put it in flash, but they do actually forget about maybe just to be able to encode it, and if it is in HTML5 or the player has a sniffer that can actually broadcast onto an iPad or an iPhone, they'll get a much larger audience, and they actually won't have that, because the Adobe and the Apple world, they never see eye to eye, but I'm just surprised because for a little bit more effort, they could actually get a lot more out of their video instead of just streaming it in Flash, they could actually stream it into HTML5 as well and get it so it worked on the iPads and the iPhones.
So your approach would be create a HTML5 sniffer,
yes,
try that. If that
exactly.
doesn't work, fall back.
And again with the sniffer on the Android as well, so you can actually work out. So on the mobile device, if it can actually works on all the mobile devices, because I think a lot of people are actually browsing the web a lot more on their phones than they were maybe a year ago or a year and a half, 2 years ago. So I think people have got to sort of keep up to date with how to, and that's what we're doing a lot more of, just the standard, so that people can actually view it on the iPad and the iPhone.
I've heard a lot about transmuxing technologies, and these are technologies that can accept one stream and then kind of send them out for iDevice delivery or flash delivery or Silverlight delivery. Or give us some examples about how you're using them. And let me go from this side to that side so we kind of get so you take that one first.
Actually, we do that, and it depends on which phones you're talking about. And so, the Android being with Flash, and then iPad and iPhone using HTML5. But it's more just it goes into the cloud and then is probably transcoded through onto any multiple devices. But
which server?
Well, my view is that nothing really does the job. I mean, people say FMS 4.5, but FMS 4.5 does not transcode. You have to put the right bit rates in, and if you're doing live streaming, you have to do multiple streams into it. It will transformat them so the streams go out as HLS and Flash, but it won't transcode. So you can't put one stream in and multiple streams out. Wowzer, you can put one stream in and multiple streams out, but I believe this is the case, and we're still fighting this. It will only work with a Wowzer network. So you can't use it as a source for the major CDNs. IIS has transcode capability, still in beta, not so sure about that. It's actually not an easy thing at all with any of the technologies to put a single stream in and have it magically do everything for you. If it was, I think we'd all be much happier.
My answer was quite waffled.
Yeah, let me just make a distinction here because I think it's important. The concept of transmuxing is taking one stream or one set of streams and then rewrapping that, as Eddie said, to target multiple devices. Transcoding, which is so Wowzer just introduced the transcode manager or something like that. It's a component of their server where they can actually take one stream in, and then they can create the adaptive streams that they then broadcast that out to so they can take one stream in and then convert that to adaptive streams. So it's important if you're considering this to understand the difference between transmuxing, which is just the rewrapping, and transcoding, which is taking one stream and kind of sending that out.
And for my money, transmuxing doesn't really give you very much. You're looking for a reduction in incoming bandwidth, and if you still have to put in all the different bit rates, but you manage to get 2 of each out at the other end, doesn't really give you much. And equally, if you've got to put half a dozen files up, but it gives you 2 different deliveries for each one, it still doesn't add very much. The grail for me is a transcode that will either take a single file and transcode it to everything you want, or a single stream in and transcode it as well as transmux it. So
Steve, what are you saying?
I think, I mean, they perform a useful function, although it is limited, as you said. The end device is dictating what streaming format is supported, so you're driven by the devices you want to support. Flash Media Saver 4.5, for example, you can provide single stream in using a variety of different transport mechanisms, and then deliver out a HLS stream to iOS devices. And some other players are becoming available. We have a flash-based player on a PC that can take a HLS stream. You can also stream RTMP, RTMP-E if you want protection for your stream, and Adobe's Dynamic Adaptive Streaming Protocol, HDS, HTTP, Dynamic Streaming. So I think we're getting closer to...
yeah, but it would only still do the single bit rate. It won't split it into multiple bit rates for dynamic.
Well, for each of those streams you can have adaptive bit rates.
Yes.
So for the HDS stream going out, we typically, right now, support up to 9 bit rates for the outbound.
But you have to put those in as separate streams.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
And we've talked a lot about adaptive streaming. How many of your customers are saying, we want that, we're not going to do this unless we have it?
A lot of our clients are moving towards adaptive streaming. So most of the deployments there today are single bit rate, and that's the lowest common denominator, not great for everybody type of experience. Maybe 1.5 megabits per second. It's okay on a PC. It's not great on a big screen. It's too much for a small device. You're wasting lots of bandwidth. So having a range of adaptive bit rates is definitely a priority. Most of the broadcasters we're looking to would like 2 or 3 mobile variants, 2 or 3 PC variants, running up to a 4.5 megabits per second for a HD stream to a large TV.
I guess we're finding the same thing. Some of the people who are doing big live events want everything and want to be able to put it to everywhere. The people who've just had on-demand content on their site for ages are just beginning to get into the thought, well, maybe we ought to be able to do this at a higher bit rate for people who can do it. No great push for that, but I can see in a year's time that everybody, there's a couple of things, delivery over HTTP rather than through the streaming servers, I think is going to be there in a year or years' time, and dynamic streaming and mobile device will be everywhere. It's just like everybody's going to want to be able to do it, but not really pushing at the minute.
Because I remember last year, everyone was saying, is next year going to be the year of the mobile? And that was a topic that, and I remember talking about 4G and whether that was going to help increase the viewing more, because that was going to help streamline and help a lot of our industry in how video was, it was going to make everything a lot faster and a lot easier to view. But again, that being delayed, it's being rolled out it's in the States, but in the UK, I don't know when is it going to be.
Well, mobile's interesting. I've been at Redbee for 2 years now, and I spent 9 years previously at Motorola. So I lived in mobile TV in a few different incarnations. I think 5 years ago, mid 2000s, lots of experiments with broadcast-based mobile TV technologies, so dedicated radio spectrum, broadcast experience, live content. I think what's happened over the last couple of years, certainly the last 12 months, is a lot of over-the-top delivery to smartphones. And that's really taken off much more quickly than any of those previous platforms, which had so many dependencies on spectrum and network infrastructure rollouts and deployments. So we stream a lot of content now to iPads and iPhones. We launched a new service for Everything Everywhere in August of this year, where we stream 40 TV channels, including all of the major channels from Sky and main UK broadcasters, to a wide range of mobile devices, 3GPP, as well as iOS and Android. So I can absolutely see the traction in terms of mobile consumption. I think consumers are increasingly expecting to have access to channels. We a little over a year ago we launched ITV, an application for iPad and iPhone. It won an award at this event this time last year, and that's been widely used. There is definitely increased consumption. The delivery networks have slowly caught up. I think the fact that a lot of people watch mobile TV, interestingly, in their homes rather than on the train. And in home they have Wi-Fi, they've probably got reasonable bandwidth, so they can get a pretty good experience. Cellular-based delivery, it's still early days. LTE, 4th generation mobile technology, are now being deployed over the next 2 or 3 years. They will offer very, very capable video bandwidth.
What's the, Android, I heard a couple of you guys say Android we serve with Flash or maybe a low quality 3GP stream. Android doesn't have the there's just such a broad range of devices out there. Is it okay to say I'm sending Flash to Android and just say I support Android? Because that's really only 3. Or HLS is only 3.0, and I think Flash is only 3.0. So can you say we're going to support Android with the Flash stream and kind of be done with it, or is that just not accepted?
The latest Flash Player, which was launched last week, Flash Player 11, that works on Android 2.2, 2.3,
Okay.
Android 3.0, 3.1, 3.2, 3.3. But it's only just been deployed, so I think it's going to take a little while for that to become available everywhere.
It's very difficult to you're in a kind of entertainment market. Yeah?
Yeah.
We're very much in the corporate market. Yeah? The number of people who would look at a corporate video on mobile device is very, very much smaller.
Very specialised.
Yeah, it's a much more limited market. So in the end, people say it's going to cost us that much to go to 10% of the Android market, and it's going to cost us that much more to get another 10%. Let's not bother. But in the in your market, that's probably a different thing. So we wouldn't worry about the bits you can't get. So you extend the audience as far as it's worth it.
Well, I guess these guys can go back to their clients and bosses and say, we can do Android with a straight face, even if they serve it with Flash only, understanding that that's only going to be unlike if you support iDevices, you support all iDevices.
That's right, yeah.
But with Android, I just,
there's a huge amount of fragmentation, the aspect ratio, screen sizes, the encoding capabilities, the hardware decoding capabilities of the device. It's so varied and fragmented that it just makes it more of a challenge, and I think people tend to start off with the easy option, which is iOS. But Android usage and market share is increasing continuously. So
what's it going to, I just bought an Android tablet because I was unhappy with, obviously the iPad doesn't support Flash. What are we going to see in 12 months in terms of the percentage of iPad tablets versus Android tablets?
It's difficult, isn't it?
Who knows?
Apple sold 11 million tablets last month, according to their earnings report yesterday.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that still dwarfs all of the other.
Yeah, they're
tablets.
enormously popular. I mean, whether it makes sense or not, they're enormously popular. There's a lot of them out there. I can't see them disappearing.
Yeah, I'm not thinking this. You think Android will get anywhere close to parity, or is it always going to be?
I think they will. I think.
You think or hope?
No,
I hope.
No, because also there are, because I think my business partner Chris was saying that if you're picking up the Android or any of the devices, the Galaxy or whatever it is, he said you may hate it for the first day, but then when you get used to it, you'll love it so much more. And having come from the iPad and then onto an Android device, you do things. And the flashes works fantastically well on there as well. But another thing is also what Facebook have done recently, and the Financial Times with their apps and building them into HTML5. So now actually you don't go into the App Store, you go onto they're encouraging you to go onto the browser, and it looks like an app, and so therefore there will be no need for the App Store, and so therefore it's only going to help in sort of Android, it's going to move into Android's hands. So Apple have got to do quite a lot to keep up with these new sort of Google and other Android devices, I think.
What are we hearing about Silverlight? Is that going to go away? Is that something your clients are asking for? Or is that?
I mean, there are some large broadcasters. Sky use Silverlight. As I understand, we don't offer Sky services. They do that themselves. It still has some large clients who've gone with Silverlight. I think on Windows Phone 7, it will be the dominant runtime environment, at least for some time. On a PC, when you have the choice of Flash and Silverlight, the sheer ubiquity of Flash, the fact that it will be installed on PCs, they'll be using it for lots of different reasons. Silverlight has struggled to get over that barrier of please install the plugin, depending which browser you're using. So it's never really gained adoption. I think Microsoft introduced some very interesting technology like smooth streaming, which was ahead of the market, ahead of HLS, ahead of. It still works fantastically, but I think that edge they had technologically has been eroded as Adobe have created the equivalent of HDS and Apple with HLS.
I mean, I think that I only have one client who uses smooth streaming. That's Microsoft. I think there's two challenges with it. One is that Flash, you want a player. There's 3 or 4 major third-party players. You go out fully documented. You don't have to write anything. You stick it on the web and it works. Silverlight, you've got to start with it and build yourself a Silverlight player. There's no the same equivalent doesn't exist, so it's hampered by ease of implementation. I think as a live environment, when we've used it, I think it's switching between bit rates actually works better than any of the other technologies. It's totally seamless, but that doesn't really make any difference if nobody wants to use it.
Exactly, because I've only ever used it. I've only ever used it on the Sky Player, but when it does that, they've got paying customers that are paying decent, so they can actually allocate the cost to that. But and when it does it, it's fantastic. But I haven't seen it being used a huge amount, and it was also I'd love to know. I always ask whenever I go to conferences and see the Microsoft or Silverlight man. I say, so what is your penetration rate really like? And I normally get a he doesn't really answer. He said, oh, we're getting better, and it's not really there as much as the other two players. So
what about digital rights management? How many of your customers are asking for it, and how does that work in these various target platforms?
Pretty much all of our customers have to use DRM because the studio rights that are allocated to those broadcasters, for example, predicate the use of DRM. And we're going through a bit of a generational shift in terms of technologies right now. So transport-based encryption, RTMPE, has been used quite widely across the broadcast industry and the premium content industry up until recently. The studios have increased their requirements, so every asset needs to have an individual license key. And so going back to Silverlight, Microsoft have a very good DRM platform in PlayReady, and it provides studio compliance, and that's one of the reasons for using the Silverlight platform. Adobe have recently launched an equivalent. It's called Adobe Flash Access, and that's built into the player frameworks. And as you said, the most popular player framework out there right now is called OSMF. It's gaining huge industry support, so people are defaulting to using that Adobe-sponsored platform, and then they'll probably go to use Adobe DRM. Apple DRM uses an AES encryption capability that sits across HLS. So I think for all of our clients have to use DRM of one sort or another, and the requirements of DRM are only increasing over time as the studios get more and more concerned about protecting their content.
And that's really interesting because none of my clients use DRM.
Yeah.
Well, that's not true. One sports client uses DRM because the FA insists. They couldn't care less. They don't want to use DRM, and in fact, they protect all their live streams only by secure URL, so it's not
Right.
DRM'd,
Yeah.
and so they're basically taking a decision to stop doing downloads, so they don't have to mess around with DRM. So they're just going to take downloads off the site completely, so they don't have to do DRM. And none of my other corporate clients have. Corporates are putting their content up for people to watch. Yeah, and that's what they want to get that content out to people, to get the message across. They don't care if you take it, steal it, show it to your mum. It's fine. So in that market, DRM's of no importance at all.
We're the same actually when it comes to a fashion show or a concert. It helps. And if it was a band, I know they should, the label should be getting upset about it, but you know what the nature of the websites are like when it comes to music. But we haven't got any of it. And if there was something, we can implement it as and when. But it's just down to whether they actually need it or not. And I think it depends if with an entertainment.
It's driven entirely by the rights holders. It's expensive to introduce. It's introduced properly. It's totally invisible to the end user unless they try and bypass it. So it's very consumer friendly, but it's expensive and it's complicated compared to not using DRM.
Yeah.
So if you don't need to use it, you wouldn't.
Yeah.
What is let me address this to you two because I think I know what your answer is going to be. But what is the penetration or desire for OTT video in the corporate or fashion space as compared to broadcast, which is obviously pretty important?
Mine is so big that I don't even really know what it is. Literally, I don't get any demand for that at all. It's a different world.
Did you say it was so big? You
Yeah, I was sarcastically.
Okay.
I literally, I have no demand whatsoever for OTT. So much so that I couldn't talk knowledgeably about it even.
You're the same.
Yeah, I'm afraid I am.
And all your big clients want it because they want the.
Well, in its generic form, so over-the-top distribution to PCs and iPads and so on. Is that the context? Are you thinking more managed IP delivery to a set-top box? Which of the If you mean OTT generally, then
Yeah, I'm
then
thinking,
everything we're talking about
Roku
is OTT.
and
Okay,
there's-
to a device, to a specialist device.
Yeah.
Depending on our clients, so some of our clients are platform owners, and this is a way for them to extend reach beyond their cable network, for example, or beyond their satellite network, etc. And we have some international broadcasters who are launching services in Europe, and they will stream to a Roku device or some other platform as an alternative to having to install very expensive managed infrastructure. So I think it's something that's increasing. Connected TV is probably driving much of this. As connected TVs become more widely installed and used, they become a very large OTT platform.
Yeah. I mean, I think one of the things is that corporates being able to deliver that kind of quality to set-top boxes and to big TVs requires big bandwidth, bigger files, more storage, more cost. You know, moving up from just web delivery to TV delivery is a whole new step up for what you have to do with your content. And you know, most corporates, the big consumer-facing corporates might be interested, but we're not getting really any traction on that at all.
Because at the moment we've actually got a number of big syndication companies actually coming to us and asking us for content, because I've always said, and people always say that content is king, and how and where you actually, if you can deliver it to as many different devices as possible, then so much the better. And also it helps when they're trying to sell in to a big sponsor or a big brand to get associated with, I don't know, a band that's been playing at a festival, or Burberry at a London Fashion Week. So I think where things are going to change quite a lot is the fact that you have to be such a targeted viewer when you to look at it on a PC or a Mac or on your phone or a handheld device, but to actually be able to watch it on your TV, in the hotel room, whatever. It's only going to broaden the exposure of the content, and I think that's where we find it really exciting, and we're definitely looking at partnerships to set up, because we've got the relationships with the Live Nations, the EMIs, the HMVs, so the people that are trying to own the content, but actually given the size of them, they don't actually really know where and how to really make the most of it. So it's trying to put, what we do is actually put people together and make it a perfect solution, and I think it's going to be an exciting sort of development in that sort of side of things, I think.
Let me just change gears. This is a question I got in another seminar. You guys know the answer to this, or at least you have an opinion on it. If you had to buy one hardware encoder for live presentations or live on-demand webcasts, which one would you choose?
My answer would change every few months. Right now, live encoders, I would choose between Elemental, who produce some GPU-based hardware encoders. So again, we're talking broadcast-grade equipment. There are lots of choices available, and Cisco's, what was previously Inlet Spinnaker, produce a range of professional quality equipment. They would probably be my choice right now.
And I would probably go for Spinnaker because we're familiar with it, but I probably wouldn't ever buy a hardware encoder.
So what are you using for your...
We use PC with capture card with software encoding that gives us the flexibility to do whatever we want. We can SDK it. We don't have to wait for a new version to come out on the Spinnaker. As soon as something's available, it's on that.
Are you building your own, or are you using...
Yeah, we just build our own. And the cost is less than a tenth of what it costs for the hardware.
I guess not your computer, but are you using Flash Live Media Encoder, or
yeah,
you...
the standard encoder is wrapped around with other stuff if we need to automate it. I mean, we're still... There are challenges. I think the thing that, say, Spinnaker's really good at is being able to do HLS and adaptive streaming all in one go, plug one thing in and not worry about it. But it's also a lot of money to do that when you can do that yourself with a little bit of mucking around on a simple system. Yeah? So I would...
Depends very much on
yeah.
what your need is.
What on your need, on your expertise. We wouldn't go and buy them because we've got people who can make the other stuff work just as well. Yeah. But I think this, when we've used the Spinnaker, they've been good, rock solid, did what they needed. Yeah.
I come from a completely different camp to that. I'm one of the Digital Rapids hardware encoders. We have 10 of them. So we've gone from the, yes, I know they are quite an investment, but from a hardware encoding point of view, they've always been, especially now we've got the touchscreen HD, which are fantastic when we're going over to the States to do conferences for Coca-Cola, or when we're going out to LA to do some crazy event on top of a mountain for B-Video in New York and AT&T. And so I know, but I think software encoding is exactly the quality. If the quality of the end product is fantastic, and I saw something you did with at London Fashion Week last year, and using the HD cameras and down converting it was fantastic. But I've come from the world of hardware encoders, knowing that one goes. We've used Spinnaker before, but we're a Digital Rapids fans, and we really enjoy. They work really well for us.
Yeah,
we've tested those, and I've got no complaints with them either. You know, they're good boxes. Yeah.
I've have a native distrust for computer-based applications. I just, I've seen them. The hardware is much more expensive, but I would do what you're doing just for the same reason. But I always twinge when I put a computer in between me and my viewers, because it's.
It depends where you're deploying. We have a huge data center. We've got racks. The kit has to go in there, so it has to go in the rack. You want density is really important.
Yes.
Yeah.
With the latest encoders I mentioned, you can output up to 20-something different streams from a single device.
Yeah, it's good.
So it depends. Yeah, it really depends on what you want to do.
Well, say because when it comes to streaming for iOS, we do it one of two ways. We either take a primary and a backup encoder, because we always take two down, one as a primary and one as a backup, just as a fail-safe in case technology doesn't work, and so there's always backup. And we'll do the same for iOS as well, so that will be sending out a separate stream. We've got to make sure the bandwidth is good enough to be able to cope with that upload speed, to be able to do that, which is
the nightmare.
Yeah, it is. And or the second option that we do, which is what we referred to earlier, is you take that top stream, and then because you're streaming into multiple different bit rates, you take that higher stream and then you chuck it up into the Wowser cloud, and then that splits it off down into the various different formats for the Android and the iPhone. And so there are two different ways. We prefer the more safest way we find is definitely the hardware encoding way, but it depends on, you've got to look at the bandwidth, because sometimes I find
bandwidth is the big issue.
Because if you're
that single stream in, transcoded out, I think is a great way to go, but I don't think there's a solution that really holds together for everything you want.
It's so new. It's not been around.
But I've been surprised, and you guys have probably come up against it as well, is how the London hotels or hotels around the country just haven't realised the importance of having decent upload speeds, and you bang your head against it.
Actually kind of frequently suggested that we'll just go around and put SDSL in for these.
It would help a lot, exactly.
And every time you look at it, you go, we don't get quite enough people from each place to make it anything other than a loss.
Like you go to Dorchester and you would think how many events they're doing twice a day, 3 times a day, and they've got a 200 kilobit a second upload speed, and it's just you have to get a satellite truck outside, and it makes things a little bit tricky.
Okay, I'm done with my questions. Do we have any questions from the audience? Y'all ask them, I'll repeat them, and then anything?
I'm not sure if it's directly related, it's a little bit higher level. If you take online video platforms like Yala, for example, they will always give you, well, in that particular case, they have an option to, I think it dynamically checks the delivery site that the video is being pulled for, and will deliver HTML or a Flash.
Yeah.
But just from a, it's kind of I feel it's technically ignorant question being asked me, but does that mean that I can kind of not worry about Flash players and coders and stuff? And because to me, with that dual option means I feel like I can just put video on any site, I'm not worried about it. Am I missing something?
Could you repeat the question?
Well, it's to do with using online video platforms like Yala, and whether that means you can stop worrying about the player and everything else. Interestingly enough, almost everything we've talked about here has been about live delivery. Yeah? I mean, my view for on-demand delivery to multiple environments is that what you do is you get an online video platform and you use that. We use Kaltura because we're partnered with Kaltura. You upload a video, it puts it into everything, and it gives you some code that works everywhere. You know, and that's it. And if a new thing comes out, they will fix that, and then you can just retrofit it to all your videos, and it will do it. And you don't have to think at all about what size and shape this stuff should be, what the player should be. I mean, we've got we've just finished building a video-centric microsite for Arup that took about 4 weeks part-time and just works on the iPhone, on the iPad, on the web as a website. You know, it didn't have to do anything. It picks the player, it puts the right thing in, it senses if you're on 3G or whatever, and it just does it. And the cost differential against just a streaming contract is minimal, really minimal. You know, there's some development cost, and you know, if you want to do clever stuff like user-generated content, it goes up. But even that's built in. I'm a massive convert to OVPs. They just take care of all of that for you.
I agree. I mean, we've built our own OVP, which does all of that and more, as you can imagine. But it very much to take away the complexity to the content owner or the content publisher. So the idea is that you have a series of source assets in whatever basic master format they arrive in, and you want to make them available on every single device, with every DRM mechanism, with every transport mechanism supported. And an OVP will manage all of that complexity, and also manage, if it's not live content, it will manage the rights windows, so content appearing and disappearing after a certain period of time based on the rights that you have. So I think an OVP is an essential part of offering OTT video.
An example of that is on the iPhone, if you wanted to embed a video, at the moment it's still automatically when you press play, it will come out as full screen. Sometimes you may not want that, and so I suppose you've got that. The technology will build up, and they'll work out ways. Because if you try and sit there and say, oh my, because on the iPad, if you do, it will play normally, where it doesn't do full screen. Whereas we could spend years trying to work out how to. And so I think it's definitely something that is worth.
Yeah.
When does HTML5 replace Flash?
I think that's a difficult one, isn't it? We could argue with that for the rest of the session and beyond.
Again, I don't think anybody knows. And from my point of view, my answer is who cares? You know, because if you go OVP, then it will, that will just fall into place somewhere down the line.
I think it depends on how successful the iPhone 5 is when it does eventually come out, and the iPad 10 or whatever else. It's the future of how important those handheld devices are, and then also if it is, I think HTML5, if they continue to, if people catch on to what Facebook and Financial Times are doing with their apps, I reckon it will be only a matter of time before everyone starts to saying, wait a minute, why are we using the App Store? We don't have to pay 30% of the transaction fees through Apple. We can do this all through our website. We take all the money, and we can deliver videos in any format we want, and it works beautifully for the user. So it's, I don't know.
I think HTML5 can replace Flash when one of two things happens. Internet Explorer 6 starts supporting HTML5, or 50% of the browser market stop using Internet Explorer 6. And that's there's loads of people all over the world still on Internet Explorer 6. It doesn't run HTML5. It can't be replaced. You have to have Flash delivering where HTML5 doesn't work. Yeah. And it can't replace Flash until that happens, until there's a way to do it.
I think there's probably two different aspects of the question. So when will it replace Flash for video? That's one part. And there's been some unfortunate standards-based debate and disagreement around which video codecs should be part of the default spec for HTML5. That debate continues. Should it be Google's WebM VP8? Should it be H.264? The MPEG-LA licensing restrictions that go with that. So there's almost ideological questions around video support. And the second one is, when does HTML5 replace apps? I think that's a more interesting question. Because native apps, so to take iOS as an example, if you want to take advantage of the hardware, have access to the full range of GPS functions, the accelerometer, the touch interface, there's a lot of things that you need a native app to do that you can't do just yet with HTML5. And so and of course the App Store is proven to be a very popular concept. And if you want to be listed, as a destination to go and find applications, I think HTML5 will gradually seep in to become more and more popular, but it's got a few different challenges.
I misheard that. That was apps, yeah? Okay. Yeah, I think, again, the same thing happens. People are delivering on websites currently and want to move into into the other devices. HTML5 is a simple, honest, obvious way to go. There's no sense in building an app to do something that is just what the website does. As you say, you want to do something clever, then you have to go the other way. I think that's the difference.
Any questions from the audience? Closing comments?
I think mobile devices, be they smartphones, tablets, will be the dominant and increasingly dominant form of distribution of video over the next number of years. Lots of people will only experience the internet on a mobile device such as a smartphone and maybe a tablet. So they will become ever more important as we go forward. I mean, it's almost hard to imagine that the iPad, which has redefined and created the fourth screen, a new form factor, was only launched last year. We're very early in this journey. Video capable bandwidth on the network side, video capable screen resolution on the device side. We're only just at the beginning of that process, but I think they represent a very important part of the future of TV and video more generally.
And I guess my comment is that I've been very interested to see how the picture is different from people who do different things. You know? From a largely entertainment to a purely corporate to a more in the middle picture. Those answers are different across the piece. I think it depends on what you do. But yeah, there's no doubt tablets are going to take over the world, I think, in the end, you know? It's simple as that.
And I think we are all in the hands of the networks when it comes to how our content can be delivered and the connection of that person in that area. But hopefully they say they're going to be improving that side of things. And I think also it's just content, if it needs to be streamed and you think your audience is actually going to need the content on a mobile device, then go for it. If not, then stick to on the web and keep it on that side of things, because it's an extra expense. You need to make sure you do your research into actually whether we're just, it needs to work on an iPhone or an iPad or an Android, but if it's thought through, I think then it's a really exciting prospect.
Let me just, I have one more question that I'm certainly interested in, but does adaptive streaming increase the cost of an event, and if so, how much? Is it a cost savings, or is it a...
It definitely enhances the user experience, so in terms of the quality of the event, because you can save all those different screens and all those different bandwidth capabilities at an individual user level, so it improves the experience dramatically. It does increase the cost. There is more bandwidth consumed. There's more renditions of each piece of video, but I would say for premium content, it's a price not just worth paying, that you almost have to pay to.
Is it 10%? Is it 50%? Is it? What's the premium for going adaptive?
If the comparison is, if the alternative is just to have a fixed bit rate, then that fixed bit rate is going to have to continuously increase, because small bit rates look really poor on a big screen. So people will have to have larger single bit rates. The cost of carriage for that on a CDN gets more and more expensive. So you could argue that having adaptive bit rate means that you only save content at the bit rate that your end consumer is able to consume or the device wants to consume, and that can save distribution costs.
For our clients, it goes the other way. If you're doing 384K and you decide to go multiple bit rate, adaptive streaming, and do a 768 to 1.2, 70% of it will be at 1.2, and therefore you're tripling the bandwidth that you use, and therefore potentially tripling the cost. And that's the nature of it, because it's the big end stuff that gets all the use. Because actually on the web you can bang a couple of meg down to most people without any problem.
It's very much back to that use case difference, isn't it? If somebody's paying to consume the content, they expect it to be of good quality. If an advertiser is paying for someone else to view the content, it has to be of good quality. If it's an enterprise event, they don't need it to be, and they can control their costs accordingly.
And I've been amazed, and you'll probably both agree with this as well, is the H.264 codecs just seems to get better and better, and so therefore you can do. So I've been staggered by, if you get everything right and you make sure that the 512 or whatever, you don't need it. You don't actually need to go overboard on the bandwidth anyway, because the qualities are just, we've actually dropped out some of ours just to say, look, there's no point in having that middle one because it just adds to the amount of bandwidth that you're going to use, or you'll need more upload speed when it comes to actually getting to the event for the internet connection. So I think that's...
I think if you're on the web and not on bigger devices, 768 probably keeps everybody happy most of the time, unless you're doing some mad stuff. But if you're doing entertainment and stuff and people putting it on big screens, then it changes.
Yeah, I completely agree.
So you just said that if you have one stream at 768 kilobits per second, everybody's happy? Is that what I just heard you say? Or?
Again, I'm only describing this from a corporate point of view. I mean, the vast majority of our video for our clients currently goes out at 384. You know, they have it embedded on a web page, and it's at 384K, and people watch it like that. They're not looking to blow it up full screen.
Normally with the PowerPoint slides alongside it.
So sometimes you've got PowerPoint slides beside it. It's a different kind of presentation. But even on web, video tends to be embedded, and you know, Facebook, people watch it in Facebook. They don't bang it up full screen a lot of the time. And now you move on to go up a bit and go to 768, and then if you make it full screen, it's fine. You know, it's not the greatest thing you've ever seen, but it's fine. Certainly the corporates are quite happy with it. You know? Different world. You know, if we were doing adaptive bitrate, we'd go to 1.2 as well, and that means that, you know, so people are going to 384 and now suddenly doing 4 times as much bandwidth because 70-80% of people get the big one.
And if you know you've only got one location, sometimes we've been asked recently where they just say, I've got an office in Manchester or Aberdeen, and you know that they have a line with a download speed higher than 3 meg or whatever. You can easily, you know that you can, they've got the connections to be able to, because it's one location. You're not going to have unhappy viewers. The problem you have sometimes of just having that top line of no adaptive bit rate is if you're when you're doing to a number of people, you don't actually know what connection speeds they are, because if they can't watch that high end stream, then they're not going to have a very good viewing experience. So it's quite interesting to look at that side as well.
And again, I think the real interesting thing there is it's pretty well 2 totally different views of that.
Different walls.
2 totally different audiences.
Yeah.
And that's the difference. Yeah. It's corporate stuff, I don't think it's
knowing the market.
Clearly what you do, you need to get the best quality out there you possibly can. And then the cost is in not delivering it rather than delivering it.
Exactly. I think the cost of delivery is going down and has gone down continuously over the last 5 years. CDN distribution costs keep on going down.
Which is good news.
It's good, but we keep pushing the quality up, so still spending as well.
Okay, we're unfortunately out of time. You guys were great. I appreciate your coming in.
Thank you.